Hi everyone, it is 2024, we're in a new year, and so that means another video. Let's go with this. I am trialing out this year one video a month, so let's see if we actually stick to it, and if anybody is watching, thank you very much, I appreciate you. Alright, so this video is going to be a review of all of the books I read in 2023. Not all of the books, obviously. I'm not going to go through and give you a short review on every single book I read, but we are going to look over my statistics on reading, what happened last year, and what are my goals for this year. So please, I'm sorry, and it happens almost every time I feel like that I come in video. My washing machine is on, so if you hear weird, strange noises, that's what that is. It's not anybody being killed in the background. So let's talk about last year really quickly and have a look at what we did and then what we're going to do next year. So I did really well. I'm very proud of myself. It was like a relatively good year of reading. It was 144 books overall. I'm actually just going to read off of my phone. You're welcome. So we did 144 books overall, which is like 49,191 pages of reading. Very impressive for myself to do. But also relevant to note is I read a lot of audiobooks this year. So like listened, read, whatever you want to say. So that really contributed to my the amount of books that I was able to read last year. And according to my little mood chart, most of what I read was lighthearted, adventurous, emotional, and mysterious. So I sort of found that this year I usually have been reading a lot of crime or fantasy books. This year I sort of tended a lot more to romance, which was really interesting switch for me, but you know what? I actually really enjoyed it, so it's okay. My 49% pace was medium-paced books, and then fast-paced was next, with the slower pace being the absolute last. Like, I don't like slow-paced books. I much prefer a medium to a fast-paced book. I just can't get with the slow burn, the slow pace. It's not for me, and majority of what I read was between 300 and 499 pages. So I was reading relatively solid books, although my 500 plus pages was only 6%. I think there was only like a handful, like 8 books, 8, that's a lot, that were over 500 pages. So not that many, and 88% of what I read was fiction. So there was a small amount, 13%, that I read that was not a fictional book, which is really interesting. The majority, by a very large margin, of genres that I read last year was romance, followed by contemporary, young adult, and then mystery, and fantasy came in not too far from there, and then I had some classics and stuff that happened after that. I also had my format, so surprisingly enough, for myself it was surprising, 49% of the books that I read were audiobooks. So I really mostly just listened to a lot of books last year, with 45% being print physical copies and only 6% being digital. Ooh. There are people honking outside Madzilla. I love living in the city. I'm going to miss it here. I'm moving, so that's going to be fun. Anyway, the authors that I actually read the most was Dee Henderson and Marissa Meyer. And then I read about 3 each of Veronica Roth, Lynette Noni, Bethany Turner, Sarah Adams, Lynette Eason, and Rachel Hauck. I actually ended up reading quite a few of their books, which was really nice. My highest reading month was February, which is when I was working from home in a job that allowed me to listen to audiobooks almost all day, every day. So that was, of course, my highest reading month. It makes sense. And my main ratings that I had been giving books for last year were 3.75. Was 4 stars, followed by 3.75 or 3.25. So most of my books sort of fit into this space of being sort of relatively good books to read. That was majority of my books was in that sort of 4 stars, 3 to 4 stars range, which is really nice. It's nice to know that I read a lot of books I really enjoyed. It's really great. All right, so I had 10 books that were in my 5-star list for last year, so I'll really quickly tell you what they were. So my 5-star books for 2023 had been Better Than the Movies by Lynn Painter, When in Rome by Sarah Adams, The Enemy by Sarah Adams, Meet Me in the Margins by Melissa Ferguson, Do-Over also by Bethany Turner, The Cheat Sheet by Sarah Adams. I had a lot of Sarah Adams on this list. I discovered her last year. Everyone on This Train is a Suspect by Ernest Cunningham. Loved that. The Martian by Andy Weir. Also loved that. And Breaking Soul Ties, Freedom from the Root of Toxic Relationships, which was a non-fiction book, and that was by a couple of people, Dennis Clark, Jason Clark, and Jennifer Clark. Family affair, working together, my goodness. So those were my 5-star reads of last year. Almost all of those romance books, and majority of those were multiple of the same author. So I just read a lot of Sarah Adams, two of my favorite romance author, I should say, Bethany Turner, and two of her books that I'd read last year, which I really, really enjoyed. The majority of those were romance books, which I really was getting into last year. It was where it was at for me. Romance books was the new norm, I guess. I think some of that came down to being influenced a lot by what was being talked about online, BookTube and whatever, and so I heard about all these books that sounded really fun, and I ended up reading them. So that's probably where I ended up, why I ended up picking all of these romance books to read, and I really enjoyed them. They were really fun. It was really lighthearted compared to the crime and fantasy that I'd been reading as well. So that was nice. So those were my brief statistics from 2023. So what are the goals this year? So this year, I'm moving in, like about halfway through the year I'll be moving, if all goes according to plan, because at the moment I'm able to read a lot of audiobooks because I travel an hour to get to work and an hour to get home on a good day. Sometimes it's longer than that. So I'm reading a lot of audiobooks at the moment, and that will change about halfway through the year. So I am going to give myself a goal to sort of get through as many physical books as I can this year, rather than focusing or relying mostly on audiobooks. So I am also cancelling my audiobook subscription. I pay for Scribd, which I think they've called something else, Everand. They have renamed it Everand in the app. But I was essentially paying for that because it had a lot more of the books that I was interested in, because my goal last year was really to try and get through as many books that were already on my bookcase as possible. I had so many books in my bookcase that I had not yet read, and I really wanted to get through a lot of those books. And I actually found that when I got around to reading some of them, especially some that had been there a really long time, I didn't enjoy the books and I unhauled them. So that was disappointing, especially when I thought that I would really enjoy those books. Anyway, so this year I am still trying to sort of do that and get through some of the books that are on the physical bookshelf that I think I won't like, the books that I think that I'm probably going to unhaul. And I'm not going to lie, some of the books that I thought I wouldn't enjoy, I ended up reading last year and actually blew me away, and I really did enjoy it. And there was others that I thought that I would love and that I really, really didn't, and I actually really hated, and I never even finished. So it's been a bit of a mixed bag for me. That's fun. But I'm just looking at my bookcase now, but there are quite a few things in there that I would love to get through, and some of it I actually can't access on audiobooks anyway, regardless of the fact that I am now going to give up my subscription until I move house. So the funny part about that is that I need the subscription in the next 5-6 months, because that's when I travel the most, and then when I move, I'm going to go somewhere closer to work, which means I won't then need it as much, and then I can afford it. But we'll see how we go. We'll see what happens with finances and with stuff like that. So I'm going to try and really be a lot more smart with my finances, which means less book buying, a lot less, in fact, almost none, and a lot more relying on things like the library do audiobooks, they do things like that, and just trucking through what I have in my physical copies. But because I am looking at moving, my reading is probably going to shift quite a bit this year. So I think that my goal would be to get through as many books in my physical bookshelves as possible that I think that I won't enjoy, which means reading quite a bunch of books that I am probably not going to like so much, which might end up putting me in a bit of a reading slump mood, which is why I also have very fun themed book plans, things like reading books about dragons, because those are super popular right now, books about movies or books about TV shows, that kind of stuff. So like having themed ideas of things to read, which means I get through books that are in my bookshelf and I get to enjoy it while I'm doing it, because it has a theme, it has a reason, it has a purpose. So I've already done that, and I have another video that's coming out, at least one that is coming out that was a themed video, and I read specifically for that theme, and I actually found that I was way more motivated to read, and I found myself really enjoying, because then you get to like compare these sort of similar themed books to each other, and you know, that sort of thing. Anyway, so that is my goal, to do some sort of more physical copies, reading, especially in the next 5 months, so that I can get them off of my shelves if I don't like them, or add them to my permanent collection if I did, and also to try and come up with themed reading ideas. TBRs don't work for me. I know that a lot of people have really fun, have a lot of fun with TBRs and really fun ways to get a TBR, and that is fantastic. So happy for that. I would prefer to have a theme every month and stick with that. So like, you know, a month of reading romance, my old romances I did recently, a month of reading all my old crime books I did, and so that was more fun for me. So trying to read all the themed books in a month is way better for me and way easier than just a TBR of a random collection of books. Even though that can work and I've done that in the past, I think this is my goal for 2024, to have some fun with reading and to have a bit more of a theme going on. I also have a goal of reading more non-fiction books as well this year. So I probably won't talk too much about non-fiction books, except for there'll be a few exceptions. But I probably won't talk too much about it here, but I would love to actually get more of that, read more of that, because I'm also studying again. I was studying last year, and this year I'm studying part-time and online while I'm also working. So there's a little bit of study in there, which means that there will be some more non-fiction books that I need to read anyway, so may as well up the ante. And I have a bunch of non-fiction books. Actually, I think they're here in that bookcase there. That I already own, that I haven't read yet, that I've bought. And so I really, really would love the goal to be to get through as many physical copies as I possibly can in the first half of this year, so that I don't have to drag them with me to a new house. And then the second half of the year to just continue on and read whatever I feel like. It'll probably be way less audiobooks than the first half of the year, because I won't be driving as much. But yes, so that is the goal for next year. I think I put down a reading, I did put down a goal. I have never put a book goal down in Goodreads before in my life, but I have officially put one there for myself, a reading challenge of 175. I did 145 almost last year, so 175. So I actually put a goal for myself to read way more than I did this year. And like I said, I read a lot of audiobooks, so it was a lot of just listening. So I've got a lot of work ahead of me, but I believe we can do it, and I think it'll be really fun. There are some really incredible books out there, and I'm really excited to read some of those. Another really exciting thing that I would love to do this year is to get through a lot more of the backlist I have for Ted Dekker. I claim that Ted Dekker is my favorite author. Him and Bethany Turner, and I have quite a bit of his work that I haven't read, and so I really would love to get through his backlist. It takes me a long time to really bounce back after a Ted Dekker book, because he sort of bends your brain into a pretzel in a good way, but like it's a lot of mind-bendy brain things, and now you have to think about your entire life in a different perspective, and that can be quite taxing. So that is my goal, is to get back to that, but I will try to do that as nice to myself as possible. It's very difficult for me because, like I said, it's like a brain bending. Plus also then you end up, you know, feeling like reading certain things at certain times of the year, and then you don't feel like reading others. So we'll see how we go, and I'm going to give myself a lot of grace with it. That was my review from 2023 and what is happening in 2024 for my goals. Yeah, nice, quick, easy January video for you. So that's what happened last year. What is going to happen this year? Let's go, let's do this, and I am really just focusing in on cutting down my physical bookshelf, because I don't want to drag all those books with me if I can help it. This is Hit for 2024. See you in the adventures.